Om Shanti, everyone, and good evening to and welcome to another edition of Friday with Friends. Today we have a friend that I've known for quite a while. Her body was different in those days. Maybe it was, I don't know, you were a child when I first knew Natasha McIntosh is my friend for the day. And the subject that we discovered that we'd like to talk about is living your authentic self, living your authentic life. And so that's quite a word. It sounds very current. It sounds like it'd be on Facebook or all social media. And so let me introduce Natasha. Hello, welcome.
Hello, I'm Shanti. Hello.
Good to see you. And I'm so glad you agreed to come on. Where are you speaking from today?
I'm here in Miami, or a town called Aventura.
Oh,
So,
you are?
nice.
Do you live here now?
I'm kind of in between two states right now, here and up north. So, but it's just, how it is with life. You have to go with the flow.
And it's wonderful that none of this gets in our way anymore. We don't have to schedule driving or plane trips or anything like that. We can just Zoom.
That's right.
So here we are, and the thing that let's have a discussion today between us, and that subject matter is living your authentic life, living your authentic self. What does that mean to you?
It's a beautiful topic. When I think of living your authentic self, I think of, kind of knowing yourself well enough to be in your own truth, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear more of what that means to you, or what your own truth means.
Yes, it's like you have a dialogue with yourself all your life on what your goals are, your ambitions. You go through challenges. Life always has curveballs, but the choices that you make in those tough decisions, and with that aim of whatever your intentions are, you always try to follow through and meet those expectations. For me, it's always the goodness and to find truth. And what that means to me is just living in the moment, and enjoying my life and following my heart. And if there's questions, ask, but never be afraid to make that discussion if there's some type of uncertainty or confusion. So that's me living in my truth. I'm not following others. I do my own investigation, so to speak. And yeah.
How did you come to this way of thinking? Is this something that your parents gave you permission to do? Is your truth the same as what you were taught, or did you have to go out and find your own truth?
Yes, I think my parents was very influential. Spirituality happened in my home, so to speak. So I wasn't looking for it. I grew up with the knowledge. And so, but as a young kids, we always have to go through our own discoveries. And so I wasn't afraid of that either. And, as you go through school and you meet friends and relationships, you find what works and what doesn't, right? So it's all part of the learning.
Has what you defined as authentic changed, or is there an authentic self that you measure yourself against?
It's a wonderful question. As a young kid, I always found goodness, and there's this level of, everything is going to be okay. So I think my truth was knowing that, we come into this world good, right? And no matter what challenges happen, we try to stay true to that goodness. So yeah, I think there's a level.
I always try to find many ways to discover something. I start one place and then I discover something new. And so I'm always looking like you. I'm not afraid to investigate, or I listen to what someone tells me, or what I read in a book, or something that I find that's so-called spiritual. And then I investigate further into it. And one of the means of my investigation is just the dictionary. And so I looked up the word authentic. And one of the definition is an authentic is something worthy of acceptance based upon fact. And then that leads itself to a lot of other inquiries. It's not a definition that ends it. It's a definition that begins it. So and then another part of that same definition is conforming to an original, so as to reproduce essential features. And this is something that goes along with a spiritual quest is, well, maybe my authentic self has something to do with being my original self.
Yes.
And what role do you think that silence, I'm thinking about, okay, I got to figure out what is authentic. How do I figure out what's authentic? So I have to learn to observe. I have to observe something. So I find that observing is best done with silence. What have you observed in your practice, what you've learned, and also what you've put into practice? What have you observed as some of the essential, authentic qualities that need to be concentrated on in order to live an authentic life?
Well, I think for me, I think it's less talking. It's more silence, like journaling or, walking on the beach early morning, where you have that one with yourself and your higher source of strength, whatever that is, and that connection. I think that's where I get my the true self starts to come up, because I'm more creative that way. I'm not thinking too much. I'm kind of going to my essence again.
Well, can you share with us what is an original or authentic quality that you have as a being? Have you discovered the?
Yeah, I mean, for me, in my fields, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of negotiating, but when I get away from all that and I go back to just my mundane, like what it is that gives me strength, it's the peace. It's
peace.
Yes, peace. It's that, turn all that noise off.
Okay, so we got there. We got to the authentic self, which is, I really relate to that myself, is that, and what's even more fascinating, is this just your particular authentic self, or do we all share that same authentic self?
Well, I think we all have that, definitely. Yeah. We're all connected, I feel. And so, yes, we all have that within each other,
So peace, would you say it's fair to say that peace is part of my original authentic self?
Yes, absolutely. Something
that and is it something that you have to put aside when you put on your work hat?
Well, I try to take breaks, and could kind of slow down my mind, because you kind of want to get back into that and not get too much in the head, so to speak. So but you try to do it practically in your time.
I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure that you're like me, and that in my observation mode, which is really what silence is I get to see myself and my behavior, throughout the day. What are my first thoughts? What are my desires, etc. And not all those line up with peace. So then, I think it's sometimes an easy out to call my authentic self as just being Craig, who I am. But as if what you said is true, that we all share that same quality of authenticity, of peace, and maybe there's some other qualities that we could talk about as well, is that I can measure myself, my experience of peace, according to the original quality of peace. And that's not always tasty, because I get to see how I'm not.
Right.
And then I could always say, well, I'm just being authentic. I'm just being real. But what I have been is I had part of that word of authenticity is worthy of acceptance. And so when I'm peaceless, I don't really call that worthy of acceptance. So do you agree with that?
Yes. I mean,
Yes.
it's sometimes when you have a lot going on, it's hard to get back to that state. You have to put a little efforts to it. There's always some distraction. I mean, so I guess if that's something that you want to grow each day, it's something you have to put a little effort into making that time for that, observation, reflection.
How do you set aside special time for this, or do you just do it whenever you can?
Oh, yes. The early morning's the best. It's the best time for a walk or an exercise, to journal, the best time to do a little quiet reflection. So it's
And do you think this authenticity is, like a sweater can be warm, but when you're in Aventura, you may not need the sweater. And so you want to get rid of it. Is this piece, or take just that one, is it something that I use only when it suits me, or does it help me in all my relationships throughout the day?
Yes, I think it's just being tapping into it. I think it's always with us, but these distractions of life, work, etc., we get kind of caught into that, and we forget. Maybe it's good to take a 2-minute, quiet reflection time, to gain that little bit of power back. And each individual has their own little tricks, their little ways to do it. So, and that's the fun part, to be genuine, to make it work for your life.
So those are two different things. One is, okay, there's this authentic self, this peaceful being, human being. So the being part is the one that has peace. The human one, not always so much so, because that's just the body. And so many times I get to see myself not behaving in that authentic, real way, but I could say, well, I'm just, after all, we're only human. And that's just more about being honesty, that authentic doesn't necessarily mean I'm being honest. It means worthy of being accepted in some way, like an original. And this was the dictionary had 3 definitions. And the last one was made the same as an original. Like I'm made in that same form as the original. And doesn't this sound strangely familiar to anyone who's practiced Raja Yoga?
Right.
That we're made in that, in fact, it's biblical, made in the image and likeness of God. I think that's a universal concept. And so then when I see myself in comparison to that, it's not always the same thing. And so I said, aha, this is where virtue comes from. Virtue is something I need to have until I can stay in that authentic and original place, because wow, I've got to tolerate myself. So there's a virtue that I like, is the virtue to tolerate, is that I have to be able to tolerate myself while I'm in this process and not be afraid. What do we do most of the times when we make a mistake? We try to justify it or deny it or something else. And now I've told a lie to myself. So I'm not being authentic.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to be honest and to know, well, things are going to happen, you know, sometimes you make a mistake, but to not, hold on to that force of whatever that keeps you kind of stuck, and kind of know that, give yourself a little love and be like, okay, next, and keep your happiness, your peace. Move
Okay,
on.
I'm gonna remember that. Give yourself a little love, and then next. And it really is like that, it's that's kind of detached, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I see where, wow, I don't know, maybe somewhere along the line in your own spiritual growth, maybe the word detachment wasn't always attractive.
Right.
I find that a lot of people, they think that's something else other than love, but what I realize, I have to get a little distance from myself
Mhm.
of where I am and where I want to be in this original place. So thanks for that. Give myself a little love next. So this is the new generation of a spiritual statement.
No, it's just you have to be light with it, because you're just wasting seconds of your life and you can't get those back. So that's all part of being authentic, just seize
That's
the moment.
true. I guess that's also very true. So maybe that's also part of being authentic, is being in the moment. You hear that every time you look in your phone or look into any social media, you'll see something about being in the present, right?
Right, yeah.
And it's become just like a word or a phrase, but in reality, it's necessary. So maybe that's also
Mhm.
one of these original, authentic qualities of my being. You've mentioned two. One we talked about, peace, and the other one was, you mentioned, give yourself a little love.
Yeah,
So would you say that love is also one of those authentic qualities of the self?
yes, because when we get too heavy, when we get too, thinking all the mistakes we've done or see others do mistakes or whatnot, just it's all part of kind of like, be gentle with it, you know.
So has growing up with spirituality, like most people, they do a search
Yeah.
and they have to travel across continents and go to the mountaintop, and then they find something, and you get it in your own living room. Do you consider that a benefit, or do you miss the adventure that everyone else had?
I think there's a little bit of both because even with me, you have questions. You want to go out and find your own journey, adventure, right? If you're that personality, you go into the lion's den, right?
And so has that created more? Do you think you're harder on yourself that way, that you have something to measure it against?
I think it's the personality, I think you want to find your way. So maybe a little bit of your little ego there. That's kind of like, you know, what is my way? Everyone's telling me no, but I want to find out, right?
Yes.
So,
So when I'm asking, it's okay. So you find out. Say you find out, and you find out that maybe what you were told before was right.
right.
And does that cause you to have guilt?
I think it could. I mean, you could feel a little guilty, but for me, I'm like, well, at least I have the experience, and I think that will stick to me more than someone giving me some advice because I want experience. Again, the personality, right?
Well, I
So you gotta
see
know who you are.
you've just showed me another authenticity, and I would say just from this brief chat I'm having with you, I can see how easy you are.
Oh,
That you're
thank
kind of easy, and it's a very comforting quality to be around for other people, because someone can be so right that they're difficult to be around. You know what I mean by that? And so that laughter is another quality that shows me authenticity, and especially laughter when it's kind of self-directed, is that this is how it goes, and to remain light.
Yeah.
So I would give you that certificate. I would give you the certificate of light and easy.
Oh, thank you. I too had my own, good days and bad, but I try to go with the flow and, again, just try to be easy with or love myself, not take it too personal, I guess. Because that's also, we get to know our strengths and our weaknesses. That's all part of the authentic.
So a lot of honesty is, you could see the word authentic has honesty embedded into it. And it's not so much about the honesty of telling the truth, but it's the honesty of observing with a clear lens.
Yeah.
And for me, that clear lens really takes place. Like I said, I have to give myself a little love, a little hug, and be in silence. Would you say that both of those, that's a good combination, is
Yeah,
silence and...
yeah, definitely. Well,
So I think that this is a language that anyone who's truly being authentic, they may use a different language to say the words, but it's the same exact thing.
Yeah. So, wow, this is amazing talk. Having such a good time.
And all it is talking with friends.
Yeah.
See, so much can be gained through just having a chit chat with true communication.
Right.
It's almost all you need, because I notice in order to truly communicate with you, I need to pay attention to you. I need to listen to you, and I need to care to understand what you're trying to communicate to me.
That's beautiful. And for me, it's to be active, pay attention, and to also give you that love back, that space that we both share. So that's part of being good friends as well, and
It
having
is.
to be real with each other.
I find that I'm more and more seeing the value of listening more than speaking.
Yeah.
Especially for my own benefit. I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so use them accordingly.
Right. Yes. Yeah, we have 2 ears but 1 mouth, so maybe we should do less talking, more listening. I think I heard that somewhere.
I think it's a universal, but we know it's a meme. As someone once, a student once said to me, "Those are just words coming out of your mouth." What we normally do at this point is we have like a little meditation.
Okay.
What do you think of the idea of giving us a commentary based upon this conversation that we had today about authenticity and the things that both of us have put into it?
Okay.
And maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, just a little bit of silence, and I'll just focus on you, and you help guide me and whoever else may be listening into this authentic self.
Okay, so take a moment to go in, letting the mind slow down and thinking and processing, letting go of the outside distractions and go inward. And for me, going inward meaning going back to my true self, a soul, a tiny point, my original authentic self, a being of peace. And as I slowly connect with that, I emerge my qualities, this energy of love and acceptance, this energy that I am living my truth, my real self. And whatever decisions I make, good, bad, I learn something new. I accept and I move on, feeling light. I also live in the moment, so I don't hold on to anything heavy, stressful. I let that go. And I remember my original authentic self, which is peace, which is love. And I get my strength from my higher energy. And that strengthens my peace, my love, keeps my battery charged. I feel good. I feel light. And I make my friends, my family, also light, because I'm light, and they'll pick up on that energy too. Because peace is my original nature. And if I could get a few moments per day to go back and to reflect, to go inward, then I will strengthen this. And this will help me go forward and be light.
Om Shanti.
Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Not only is it beneficial, but it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, and just any type of true connection is so beneficial. So again, thank you very much for coming on today with us in Friday with Friends. And you're very close. Actually, you're very close. I'll see you soon.
Okay, I'll
All
see
right.
you. Thank you
All
again
right.
for inviting me. Bye.
Bye.